Okay, so now we're going to start the presentation about why we started Earth Company, why we created this place called Mana Earthy Paradise. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to my wife and my partner, Aska.
Hi everyone, welcome.
And so before we start talking about Earth Company, we're actually going to tell you a little bit about ourselves, our journey, our childhood, our experiences, yeah? So maybe 5 minutes each, we'll tell you our life stories. We'll start with Aska's.
Okay. All right. Is this okay? Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay, great. All right. So I'm sure every one of you. Wait, is this working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure every one of you has your own journey, and I'm sure this is part of your big journey at the moment. But me and Toma, we've had our journeys as well, and we're also in the process of our journey as well. So you can see parts of that. That'll be great. So I usually talk about more of the private side of the journey that I've held so far. And I'm going to talk about what led me to do what I do now. Yeah? So my name is Asuka. I come from Japan. I was born and raised in Tokyo.
One is fine.
My father was Japanese, but he was raised in Okinawa. Yeah, when it was American territory. So he went to American school all his life. So his first language is English. My mother was very traditional Japanese, so it's kind of a mixed culture, although it was a purely 100% Japanese family. And I was kind of different, so I was bullied in school, and I didn't really fit into the traditional Japanese conventional education. And so I always wanted to go abroad, yeah. And so I spent a lot of time abroad. I did an exchange program in high school, so I went to high school in Missouri, in the States, and then I took my college in the university, Boston University, and then so I came back to Tokyo to work for an American company, but in Japan. But then I went back to America for rep school, and I've been going back and forth, yeah. But the biggest experience that really led me to do what I do now, really the turning point of my life, was my experience in Samoa. So that I took that trip the last year of my university, and I was backpacking in Pacific Islands. And what I saw was really eye-opening. The life there was really, really simple. They don't have anything. They don't have money. They don't have things. And they live really simply, like if you want to eat, then you have to grow your own food. Life is pretty much self-sustenance, right? But they lived really, to me, they looked really alive, And like if you want to eat beef, you have to kill a cow, like that kind of stuff. I'm sure for you guys maybe it's more familiar than for us, who come from developed countries, where if you want to eat meat, we just go to the supermarket and buy packed meat, But like I really learned about what it means to live, like what for me to live, I had to give a life, like that. I really learned in Samoa. But I really learned about was climate change. So Samoa is a small country in the Pacific, it's very vulnerable to climate change and sea level rise, right? So, I saw a lot of coconut trees falling into the ocean because the sea level was rising. And the waves were crashing into my house, actually. The one on the left, that's my house, the house that I was staying at that time. And, every full moon, every new moon, the tide is high, right? And those times, the waves would actually crash into my house. And I started to get really scared, how high is it going to go? Like not knowing whether your well-being is secured or not. For the first time, I felt that, It got me really scared. And you see the leg of a girl running away from the waves. And at first the kids are kind of playing around, with the waves, but after some time, they start to look really worried. You know, and when I saw that face of this little girl, it got to me, you know. I was like, okay, so this is what climate change is about. It's not just about political matter. It's not just about scientific things, and it's about people, you know, and it's about our lifestyle affecting their lifestyle, you know. And I was the only Japanese in that village, and I felt responsible for these people, these kids' future, you know, and that really changed my perception of life. And towards the end of the peninsula, where that village was situated, you know, there were so many villages, one after the other, that had already been abandoned because they could not live there anymore. You know, the waves were becoming so high, it had gone into the well water, it went into the, you know, into the farms, right? And they couldn't harvest anymore. And so they could not live there anymore simply, you know, so they moved up to inland. And so, yeah, when I saw this, I was like, is this the future of our planet? You know? And I feel like, are we responsible? You know, who caused it? You know, how can we solve this? You know, is this our fault? You know, like, we live in a really dysfunctional world. You know, we need to do something about it. And that led me to really want to pursue climate change. But at first, I wanted to go into the business world to really understand, you know, what it is that caused this problem to begin with. What kind of mindset created this problem to begin with, you know? And so I went into consulting company. I did that for a few years. And then I went to really study about climate change effects in the Pacific Islands. And well, that's actually where I met Bella, who is the first person that we supported as Earth Company. She became the person, the reason why we started this organization, which I will talk about more later. And then after that, you know, there were a lot of disasters that needed to be managed, and I was involved in that kind of management effort. And then I also worked in Tuvalu, which is one of the first countries to go underneath the water because of climate change and sea level rise. One thing led to another. We were awarded by the Dalai Lama. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, we really didn't think we were deserving of that. So we actually refused to receive this award. But then one of the reasons why we took it is because we were told that we could invite anyone from anywhere in the world to come to the reception. And we wanted to bring Bella, that person that I thought was most deserving of the award. And so we took this award, and we went and we introduced Bella to the Dalai Lama and the committee, and she became the next awardee. Which the award hasn't happened since then because of the physical acquisition of the Dalai Lama. But yeah. And then Matomo and I met, and then we finally founded Earth Company to really build our own organization where we could really support the people that we thought was needed. I'm gonna pass it to Tomo to talk about his life story.
Okay. Should I stand here? Okay. All right. I just changed because I was so hot and sweaty. All right. So I'll tell you my story, which is actually similar in some parts. Okay. We can go next. So my parents are both Japanese, even though a lot of people ask me whether I'm fully Japanese. So both my parents are Japanese, but my mom was actually born in Taiwan because in 1945, before the end of the war, Japan was colonizing Taiwan, yeah? And so my mom's family was actually living in Taiwan. My dad is from this city called Nagoya in central Japan. He comes from a pretty poor background, and he had to work in school to be able to pay for tuition and things like that. And then they actually, in the 1960s, I think, they met in New York. They were both working for a bank called Bank of Tokyo, and they met in New York. So my background is very Japanese, but my parents were both quite international. Next. Can you press the... Okay, so I'll kind of go forward. It's okay. So this is actually me when I was 3. And then actually maybe 4 or 5. So we were living in the UK, in London. And my dad was transferred to UK when we were very little. And you can probably tell where I am. I'm right here. So it was a very strict private school, yeah? So we had to wear a tie, we had to wear a jacket. And I don't know why, but we all had to wear very short shorts. For some reason, yeah? And so that was me. Do you want to sit down? Do you want to sit down? No? Okay. And then we lived in the UK for a few years. And then we went back to Japan for a few years. So I did most of my primary school, Este, in Japan, yeah? And then one of the most important experience for me was actually in just when I finished high school. Very similar to her story from Samoa. So it was my first time living in a so-called developing country. And there was no electricity, there was no running water, and I was living in this kind of village, yeah? And what surprised me, what was shocking to me, was how warm and how happy people were in the villages, yeah? And then I had been living in countries like, Japan, US, UK, the so-called most advanced places in the world, right? Economically. But then you see things like suicide rates that are very, very high. You see depression rates very, very high in these places, right? And then in this very simple village, everyone seemed so much warmer. They were very nice to each other. And they were especially nice to an outsider like me. And I thought, well, what is this relationship between economic development and kind of emotional development or spiritual development? Do you get unhappy if you get more rich? Yeah? And so these are the kinds of questions that, this is our child, number 3. So that was the question that I started to have in my mind. What is this relationship between money and happiness? Yeah? And then I worked, did an internship at an investment bank and did many, many things along the way. But then when I was in my mid-20s, so probably around the same age as you. So this was about 24, 25. So I worked in a place called Tibet in China. I was working for an NGO. And I was surrounded by these really amazing young Tibetan colleagues who really wanted to help their communities, help improve the environment, preserve the culture. And I was like, this is really what I want to do. I want to be with people who care about the world, care about communities, and I want to contribute to something good. So that was the experience in Tibet, and yeah. Fast forward several years. I'm 41 now, and I've been doing this kind of stuff in social entrepreneurship, social innovation. But one thing that I actually want to share about how we live. This is probably the most important message I want to share with you today. Yeah? And that message is, I think we have all been taught, we have all been educated, we have all been brainwashed to live in this logic. Do, have, be. We do a lot of things. We have to work hard, we have to study hard, we have to struggle, yeah? We have to do a lot of things, and then that will give us some haves. We earn money, we get good grades, we get into good university, we have some things, yeah? And then those have those possessions will give us happiness or joy or peace. Yeah? This is what we're all taught. Yeah? But this idea of be, do, have is actually saying this way of living is probably not right. It's probably not correct. It's probably not going to give you happiness at the end. And what you need to do is actually bring the be up front. And it's actually be, do, have. And by that, we mean be means when are you happy? When do you feel the most alive? When do you feel joy? Yeah? And if you can really ask yourselves those questions, and very similar to what we experienced over there just now, yeah? What is your be? If your be is clear, if your be is strong, then the do will become actually very strong as well. You'll be motivated to do. You'll be motivated to work. You'll be motivated to study, right? And then, of course, those doing will give you some haves. You need to have certain things to be able to live. Yeah? You need to have income. You need to have certain things. But there's nothing beyond this have. There's no happiness beyond, because you should have actually experienced that up front, yeah? And so this idea of be, do, have, we feel is very, very important. It's a new way of living. And I also want you to find your be, yeah? When do you feel the most alive? Or when do you feel the most motivated? And one thing that there's one short story that I want to share with you. It's it's called The Fisherman and the Businessman. Yeah? It's a very short story, but it's very insightful. So there was once a businessman who was sitting by the beach in Brazil. Yeah? Businessman in Brazil. And he saw a fisherman in that village. And the fisherman had caught some fish. Yeah? And then the businessman asked, how long does it take you to catch that many fish? And then the fisherman said, oh, just a little bit, maybe a couple hours. And then the businessman said, well, why don't you stay longer in the ocean, in the sea, so you can catch more fish? Yeah? And then the fisherman said, well, it's okay. I have enough fish that I caught from my family. I don't need to. Yeah? And then the businessman asked the fisherman, so what are you going to do for the rest of the day? You have so much time now. And then the fisherman said, well, I usually wake up early in the morning, go out to sea, catch a few fish, go back and play with my kids. In the afternoon, I take a nap. And then when evening comes, I join my friends in the village and I have some drinks. We play the guitar, we sing, and we dance at night. That's what I do. That's my life. And then the businessman said, well, I have a PhD in business management. Let me tell you what you should do. So I could help you become a more successful fisherman. So from now on, you should spend more time in the ocean, try to catch as many fish as possible, and when you have saved some money, you can buy a bigger boat, and you can catch more fish, and maybe you can employ some more people, and then you can buy more boats, and you can set up a company. And then you can move out of this village and go to the big city and become a CEO. Yeah? And then the fisherman says, well, what's going to happen after that? And then the businessman says, well, after that, you can live like a king in your house. And when the time is right, you can go sell your shares of your company and you'll be even richer. And then the fisherman asks, well, what about after that? And then the businessman says, well, you can retire, you can move to your house, back to your fishing village, and you can wake up early, catch fish, and you can come home, play with your kids, and you can go take a nap, and you can go dancing, play guitar with your friends, and have a drink at night. And then the fisherman says, well, that's what I do right now. Yeah? So we're not telling you to become fishermen, but it's a really important question we need to ask ourselves. Like, why are we doing all this? Yeah? And that's why I wanted to share this story, because it comes back to the be. Like, what do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Yeah? Okay. Now back to Asuka.
Okay. So that was parts of the journeys that led us to found this organization, our company. So, as I talked very briefly about, this person is Bella. She was the reason why we started this organization. But to me, she was someone who was going to change the future of her country. I was 100%, I was 1,000% sure of that. And she was a refugee. She was a child soldier. She was a victim of all kinds of abuse back in the day. She comes from Timor-Leste. So she grew up, I'm sure you guys know, she grew up in those times, yeah? And things were really difficult, She has 45 siblings at the moment, still growing. Yeah, crazy, right? She's supporting most of them. But she lost a lot of them in the war as well, And she's gone through so much. But she did not lose hope. And she became a refugee. She exiled to Canada. And she really talked about, what was really happening in Timor-Leste to let the world know, what's happening, And she supported the independence of the country from abroad. Yeah, and after 6 years after the country became independent, she came back to Timor-Leste to be finally reunited with the family, and also to really rebuild her country. And so she was working for the UN. A lot of UN agencies came to Timor-Leste, trying to rebuild the country. But as you know, before the Indonesian time, they were under the colonial rule under Portugal for the longest time, for 450 years, right? And so they had never been independent, as far as they've known, right? And so even the ones that fought in the war, they became the politicians, but they didn't even graduate from elementary school, And so to her, to rebuild her country was not by United Nations or foreigners coming into her country and rebuild, but for her to educate, not just for her, but for the country to educate the young minds, to inspire and empower the young minds to want to rebuild the country, And that's when, so I had known her since grad school, and I decided that whenever she wants to do something big, I was going to support her no matter what. And that time came when I took her to the award ceremony, when we received the award by the Dalai Lama. That's when she told me that she wanted to start school. And, Tom and I were there together, and we were like, oh, we have to support this no matter what. And to him, too, there was this person, Pella, that he met in Tibet. He meant a lot to him, He was a similar kind of a, zero to hero type of person in Tibet, And so he had his Pella, I had my Bella. And, we really believe that there are so many people like these, in the world who has the ability to change the future of their communities and world, but they don't have that resource to do that. And so we wanted to give them that resource. And that was the beginning of our company. So we founded this organization in 2014. We do three things. One is what we call impact hero. We call these change makers who have great ability to make change, who are likely to cause paradigm shift that is needed for the world to change from degenerative to regenerative, right? We call them impact heroes. We select one impact hero per year, and we give them 3 years of support. We do pretty much everything for these people. The second one is Impact Academy, which Tom is going to talk about later on, but we basically give opportunities for people to learn from these impact heroes how to turn this world from degenerative to regenerative. Yeah? And as you can see, Mana, the third thing we do, we founded Mana back in 2019, which is like the worst timing to start a hotel ever. But we are still surviving, which I will tell more about. But yeah, well, 7 years. It's been 7 years since we started. We have 40 members, including everyone who worked here as well. What we really trying to make happen is to turn the world from degenerative to regenerative, right? So I don't know if you can see well, but the first stage is the conventional, which is the degenerative Earth being, state of being, right? Which we're calling the Earth 1.0. So this is a world where the more we live, the more problems we create, yeah? The more we live, the more social problems, the more environmental problems are born, right? And also, the more money we get, like we've been trying to make money. The whole world has been trying to make money, so much money. And has that made us happy? To some extent, yeah. It gave us some security. It gave us some, necessary things for us to get by, But then the research has proven that after some point, after exceeding one point, it's called the threshold point. If your salary or if your income exceeds that point, then your well-being starts to go down. Yeah? So it's not that the more money you make, the happier you are. Yeah? And we've already found that out. But we're still trying to make more money, and generating so many problems on the way, right? So what we're trying to be is sustainable. Sustainable is about solving problems that we create. But then we're still creating problems, We create and we solve, How inefficient is that, So if you can get to a stage where we don't create those problems to begin with, then, we're calling it circular. That's Earth 3.0. But then is that really the aim, that we're headed to? If we can aim even higher, then we want to be regenerative. The more we live, the happier we will be, the better the world will be. There will be less problems, social problems. The environment will flourish more. That will be the world that we want to have. And so I don't know if you guys heard of this British guy, Sir David Attenborough. He's what he said, what we do now and in the next few years will profoundly affect the next few thousand years. Yeah. So we're living in very, very highly influential times. Yeah. So we were born in this time, in this era for a reason. We're here because we can do something about it. Yeah. So why not, right? We're the first generation to feel the impact. Researchers have said that by 2030 there will be places in her country that will not be livable. Yeah, so she's fighting it. Wei Wei is a peace activist from Myanmar. She's also a Rohingya. Yeah, so Rohingya are some of the most persecuted tribes in the world. And Reprovic, he's actually also based here as well. He's working in Indonesia, trying to restore degraded land. Because in Indonesia, deforestation is a huge, huge, huge problem. The forest is really the lungs of the earth. If you lose the lungs of the earth, then you can't breathe, right? It's just simple as that, right? And your country really is the lungs, of this earth. And there's so much degraded land that we have to restore. And he's a bamboo expert, and he's really trying to rebuild the forest using bamboo. It's really, really interesting model. I would love for you guys to. We'll send you videos, information, but I think you guys find it really interesting. Okay, so we approach everything. We do leadership coaching, fundraising, a big part of it. We fundraise anything anywhere between 100,000 to close to 400,000 US dollars per children. Yeah, we built clinics, we built childbirth centers, and we built schools, eco villas, youth centers, climate change youth centers, stuff like that. We do marketing support because not everyone has the skills and knowledge to be able to implement marketing strategies. Business development, management consulting. You might be a change maker, but you might not know everything about how to run an organization. Right? We raised about close to $2 million US dollars in the past 7 years, and then mostly half of that went directly to impact heroes for their projects. And through their projects, we've served about 880,000 people so far. And not just impact heroes, but there are finalists as well. They're just as amazing people. Starting this year, we started to support the finalists with impact heroes as well. So we're planning on doing more of that. Okay. Impact Academy, I will let Tomo explain about it.
Okay, so I'll keep this part really quick because the final part is Mana, and I know you guys are very eager to learn more about that. So the Impact Academy program is basically our educational program. So we have been running programs for high schools, universities, and also companies on sustainability, social innovation, things like that. And so some of the themes that we focus on are SDGs, beyond SDGs, circular economy, social innovation, and then we've been doing that for about 5 years now, and have run about 50 programs to date. And some clients in kind of education space, also corporate clients. We also do trainings for companies. But now comes Mana. The reason why we started this place is because we were running these educational programs here in Bali. When they come, they come for 1 week, and then we bring them to Green School Bali. We might go to Yayasan Bumisehat. We might go to different organizations, yeah? And they get so inspired. They're like, okay, I'm going to change the world now. But before we had our own place, they would actually stay at very normal, very not so sustainable hotels, right? And so during the day, they were learning about all these things to change the world and make this world a better place. But then at night, they were staying in places that were contributing to a lot of the problems in Bali. So as you may know, water shortage in Bali is a big problem that's actually caused by the tourism industry, yeah? And the tourism industry also generates a lot of waste. And so there's so many social and environmental issues that the hotels produce. And we didn't feel good about that, We were trying to inspire people, but then at night they were also contributing to some of the problems in Bali. And so we wanted to walk the talk. We wanted to embody this sustainable future that we're teaching about, yeah? So we wanted to practice what we preach. And so we said, okay, well, let's create a place where we can feel good, we can feel confident about all the things that we're trying to share with people. And that's how this place, the idea emerged. And great, the sun has just come out in the right timing, just before the virtual tour, not the virtual, the Mana tour. And so, yeah, so this place is a place where it really embodies the vision and the mission that we believe in. And so the educational program actually led to this hotel. Yeah, that's the short story.
Yeah, so you might know this already, but all the lamps that you see here are powered by solar. The drinks that you see here in this space, or the drinking water, or even the water that we use in the kitchen, or the water that comes in your toilets, in the shower, everything comes from the rain, right? So the rainwater goes into the tank, and we filter it, and that gets distributed throughout the whole property. So yeah, we're trying to be as circular as possible. We're trying to implement anything that's ecological. If you guys have any other ideas, feel free to give it to us. We want to try anything. We want this place to be sort of the testing ground, right? For anything ecological, anything social, anything regenerative. Yeah. Yeah, so as Tomo was explaining, tourists use 2,500 liters of water per day per person. Can you believe that? This includes water that that gets used in pool. You might go to a spa. You might go enjoy like really big bathtub. That kind of stuff is all included. When locals are only using 180 liters. So basically, we're taking so much water from all these farmers. Like people in Bali, they rely on water for them to live. But we're taking so much water from them. They're not able to harvest rice as often as possible because we're taking so much water. Tourism, is it really for the people of Bali? I really say that, Look at the waste, and tourists are generating like 3.7 kilograms of waste per day per person, and the locals are generating only 0.7 kilos, right? And everything goes to the trash mountain. Have you guys seen it? The trash mountain in Bali? Yeah, it's very close to the airport actually. You can sometimes smell it too. Right now they're trying to bury the whole thing, so you might not see it so much, but until like last year, 2 years ago, so like hundreds of trucks. I think it was more than 1,000 trucks go into the trash mountain every single day. They're taking trash from all these hotel like resort areas every day, and then they get dumped here. And then there's a slum of communities living here. They're not just Balinese people, they're people from Java. Actually, the majority of them are people from Java. They live there, taking trash from the mountain. And there are a lot of kids running around. The smell is so bad, like to a point it hurts your eyes to open it. But the kids are running around, barefooted, Of course, not going to school. They can't afford to send their kids to school. And they're picking trash and they put it in a big bag and they get to the recycling company, which gives them like a few dollars a day, So basically, tourism is creating a situation like that, And there's no solution for that so far, We don't want to contribute to things like this. And Booking.com has found that 83% of global travelers think sustainable travel is vital. Yeah, so it's not just us. It's not just us tourism operators, but also tourists themselves are becoming more and more conscious. If they have a choice that they don't want to contribute to these social problems and environmental problems, 61% is saying that the pandemic has made them want to travel more sustainably in the future. Yeah? Since the beginning of pandemic, we stopped receiving any international tourists, right? And we started to receive some domestic tourists. Most of the guests that we have here at the villas are domestic tourists now, which never happened before. Like we're very sustainable hotel, and that kind of a sustainability angle was never really anything. It wasn't really appealing to domestic travelers. But now more and more travelers, especially from Jakarta, are opening up to sustainability, wellness. They want to be more eco. They want to be better to the world. To secure a future for the children and for them to be better and healthier. So that has really changed the perception of people throughout the world. 49% still believe that 2021 there aren't enough sustainable travel options available. So this is a business opportunity as well. Like of course we're doing this for the world, not just in it for the money. But it's an opportunity for sure. There's an emerging market. So yeah, we have Eco Villas, and then Mana Kitchen is where you guys are sitting. Mana Market is the conscious market right there. The Eco Villas are built using this technique, very innovative, unique technology called the Earthback Houses. So they're basically unseparated rice bags, rolls of rice bags filled with soil, making a coil all the way up, probably like maybe 20 layers, maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah, something like that. It's really simple. So once you're trained to do that, then you can build, your second one, third one. It's really simple and very cheap, fast. You can build a small one or a single villa in about 3 weeks. Yeah. Talking about money, the single, the really small one, the walls itself was about $10,000. So, compared to other concrete buildings, and it's much, much cheaper. So it makes financial sense as well. And it's very ecological because the walls are really thick, and so you have slow heat transfer. And so, when it's hot outside, it stays cold from the coldness from the night before. And then, when it's nighttime, and then you get the heat from during the day, right? You'll find out more about it from Sarah in your tour, so I'm not going to go into much detail with this. Yeah, so we have solar panels, as you can see, wastewater garden to circulate wastewater. We're using like recyclable mattress, anything that's ecological. A lot of our glasses are upcycled glasses. Yeah. Now we also have a dormitory, because we want to make it available to young people, because usually Nika hotels are really expensive, right? Like they charge us like $300, $400 a night, which eviction, of course,
And you guys will go into the dorm later, so
yeah, you see it. But we really want like university students, even high school students, to come and stay with us, because that's really they're the next generation. They are the ones who need to experience stuff like that. Right? Yeah, here as well, we're farm to table to farm restaurant. Yeah, and so as you take a walk, into the hotel, you see lots of permaculture gardens. So we're growing our own food, and so that's the vegetable that we use it to serve our guests here. And then if there's any leftover food, or from cooking, if there's any waste, then you can put that back into the soil through the compost. Yeah. So it goes back into the soil, it grows more vegetables, and then that vegetable gets served to more customers, right? So it's farm to table to farm. Yeah, circular. And we stay away from any chemical, like pesticide, no MSG. Sorry, I'm sure there are a lot of people who might love MSG. But try our food. We don't have any MSG in it, but it's still good. Yeah, and we're healthy. We're no GMO, like tempeh tofu, that kind of stuff. Usually, most of it is GMO, but then we find the ones that are not GMO. Yeah, we're very healthy, but we're not. Yeah, genetically modified. Yeah, so none of our vegetables that you use here are not. They're not GMO. Yeah. Yeah, we don't provide beef because beef is like the most unecological thing you can eat. Yeah? Yeah, but we do serve chicken. Like when we say we're healthy, health conscious, a lot of people think, oh, they must be vegan, they must be veggie, But we're not. We serve chicken, and Indonesian customers, they love our ayam. We have our chicken burgers, our fried chicken, sambal masa, they love that stuff. And even that, the fried chicken sambal masa is used the probiotic ingredients, so it's very good for digestion. So you don't get fat by eating it. Yeah. Yeah, and in our market, we're selling anything that's organic, ecological, ethically sourced, socially impactful, and locally produced. Yeah? So organic and eco is pretty easy to understand, and ethically sourced, I think you understand as well. Socially minded, this means that we want to prioritize products that will really benefit the marginalized communities here in Indonesia. Yeah? So instead of selling something that is made by foreigners, we want to work with the local artists, local people, For example, we're selling something that is a bag, or actually, my bag, there. This bag right here, this is from Panda. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know Panda. It's an Indonesian ethical brand. This is made by Kalimantan woman, a marginalized woman who come from Kalimantan, whose livelihood is very much affected by deforestation and palm oil and stuff like that, right? And so, Panda is basically giving them a way to make a living. So they're training them on how to make these traditional bags to a quality that's sellable to foreigners, so they can sell it at a higher price, right? And I love this bag. This is so so practical and fashionable, and it's for a good cause, And so these are the products that we want to prioritize, selling, and that's goes to local, talking about local as well, local produce. We don't want to sell anything that's foreign. We don't want to sell anything that's imported, because by importing that, there's so much CO2 being emitted just by importing those products, right? And where does the money go? Abroad, right? So nothing good happens in Indonesia, but we're here in Indonesia, we've been welcomed by Balinese communities, our kids go to, Balinese schools, and, our kids have Balinese nannies, and, they have Balinese families, We're so welcomed by the communities, and what do? If you don't contribute to these communities, then what's the point, And we really want to get back to the community, and if the tourism can act like that, then tourism can be a really great thing for Bali and beyond, and that's really the model that we want to create here. So yeah, these are some of the things that we're selling.
Let's go. They're going to do the market tour, so I think we can wrap up.
Okay, yeah, so you guys are going to see all the products with the tour, and so I will let you explain all that great things that we sell.
I think we can stop here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about it. You guys will see more, but that's the end of our presentation. Hope you guys enjoyed it.